there's definitely not much love lost with Sega nowadays. Whatever appeal they used to have is pretty much a relic of the past. And as much as I like Sega, I can never deny that the only reason why they're still around is thanks to Sonic. Which unfortunately is kind of a shame. I mean, I'm glad Sonic is still around for better or worse, but the Hedgehog isn't Sega's only IP. In fact, Sega has a pretty good amount of IPs that don't get much attention. One of those IPs that I'm pretty familiar with is Shining Force, essentially the Fire Emblem game that we would get until Nintendo released the real thing about another 11 years later. Oddly enough, I read that apparently this wasn't influenced by Shadow Dragon, but by Dragon Quest. I've never played that series, so I can't really say if it's more like that game or not, but based off personal experience, the Sacred Stones definitely remind me of this one when I first tried it out on a 3DS through that Ambassador program. And from what I've seen of footage of Dragon Quest, yeah, I'm definitely not seeing the connection here. Okay, I know it's not exactly like Fire Emblem, and I'm sure some diehards are foaming at the mouth because they'd even compare the two. But hey, it was the closest thing that I could connect it to, so sue me! But in my opinion, I'm grateful Sega did bring it over here and not made a Japan exclusive, because it's fun. In fact, it's up there in RPGs for me. If you like Fire Emblem, then you're gonna be right at home because it shares the same anime medieval theme, and it's also a tactical RPG, where you move units across the playing field and battle knights, monsters, and other mythical beings to level up and grow stronger. So yeah, it's very similar, but there are a few differences that help and make it feel a bit more traditional. Like for one, there are towns to visit so you can explore for secrets, recruit potential allies, and to progress the story. Also, this is either going to be a huge turn-on or a huge turn-off on the game depending on how you feel about it, since there isn't permadeath in Shining Force. Personally, I prefer this since it makes it more accessible. I mean, I like the challenge permadeath provides, but if a unit falls in battle, then you don't have to resurrect him if you don't want to. So you can still do a permadeath run that way if you want to play it as so. But let's be real here. There's a reason why there's an option to turn off permadeath nowadays, and I think back in 1992, this was probably for the best. RPGs still weren't big here yet, so a gameplay mechanic like this would have been alienating to players. And to me, accessibility is appreciated for an old school RPG. Especially when the game kinda shoots itself in the foot at the beginning. While I always recommend Shining Force to anyone who's into tactical RPGs, I also always feel the need to always warn people about the first half of Chapter 1 since it starts off way too slow for its own good. Why? Well, much like other games like this, terrain plays a big part in attack, movement, etc. So after the first fight, you're immediately thrown into a second fight. The problem is that you have to go around this mountain, and your movement with these units are nerfed. Badly. I always dread this part. Granted, I'm glad there's terrain buffs and penalties. It adds a bit more strategy and depth to the battles. But Christ, this feels like an eternity trying to get past here. And sadly, there's some other maps that suffer this too. It's not the end of the world, but when it drags, it really drags. This also goes towards some units like the healers. Now, they can attack, but obviously their attacks are going to be crap for the most part. They're healers, they're not supposed to be taking out enemies in one shot. The problem is this leads to them being very hard to level up at first. You're generally not going to get much experience from healing a lot of the time, so you gotta go at a Pokemon style and let the others do most of the work and then let them take the kill. It's such a pain in the ass at first, and that's honestly Shining Force's biggest issue is its rough start. The first time I played back in 2002, I fell into this trap too. I thought it was really boring at first, but I kept at it and soon the story and its characters got their hooks into me. I mean, come on, one of the units you get to play as a werewolf and then when you promote him, he gets Wolverine-like claws. That alone is pretty badass. Actually, now that I think about it, some of the classes and weapons some units upgrade to are pretty awesome, like take Diane here. Who the hell is gonna fuck with that thing? Good God! This amount of style definitely makes up for the lack of character depth there is. You might not know about these characters as much as you would in a Fire Emblem game, but to me, they definitely leave a big impression. If I was to recommend which version to play, then I'd suggest the GBA remake, which is the version I've been showing. They updated a lot of things to make it more accessible, and they did it in such a cool way too. Want to make sure healers or lower level units don't fall behind? Then let newcomer Marcia use her step ability to allow them to catch up and do what they need to do. Yeah. I guess you know your game's getting kinda dated if you introduce a somewhat OP character who is about on par with the main hero Max. But also described on the wiki as fuel for the party. Oh my god. But it also improves on the presentation and tells the story a bit better. You get more interaction with your teams, and the updated artwork definitely helped. Like, look at some of these before and after images. There's a bit of charm to how awkward the original designs look, but to me they look a hell of a lot better here. So all around, the GBA version was a great remake. But whether you want to be a purist and play the original or play this version, if you're an RPG fan, especially a tactical one, then you owe it to yourself to play Shining Force. You won't regret it.